Hey, Jay here. We're back talking about 300s, our favorite subject. I always say we're going to stop doing 300 videos, but then they come out with new 300s that we want to try. So we have the KTM 2020 Xc Tpi and TX Husqvarna. It's a TX 300i, the fuel injected ones. We're going to compare that to we've already talked about these two bikes. So knowing these two bikes, we're going to compare it right now to our 19 300 XC, which is a great bike. We've already talked about this bike a bit. We've done quite a few things in this one. Right now, this has the key in on it with the JD jetting in there. This is kind of our best setup that runs good here at 3,000 feet up to, we were 12 in Colorado a week ago. So it runs good in that whole range. We're pretty impressive and so people go, oh, you don't have to mess with jetting on the fuel injected bikes. Well, on this bike, we don't mess with jetting once we got it set. Now, you do have to, the stock carburetor is not very good, so we do have to get a carburetor. So, we're going to talk about the pros and cons and give you our feelings on these bikes right now. Okay, so now back to our carb versus TPI, somewhat apples to apples as far as both are XCs, TX, XC, same thing, same, linkage bikes, same gear ratios, everything. This is a 19, doesn't have it quite as updated suspension, but the suspension's been done by Racetech. And then this thing's got a few mods. It has the different ECU, has the key in carb from JD jetting. Tom Morgan cut the head, no porting or anything. So you go, well, you got more mods to these. Yes, you do. One thing is you can do mods to these. These you do mods, there's no mapping tool. You're gonna have to get like a different tuner to map it and to figure it out. Where this, you can do that stuff, and in your jetting, you can take care of it. So, so to answer the question, if you have the choice, for us, Spencer and I both, you agree, Spence?
Yeah.
We both like the carbureted bike better. Now, if you're just buying one bike and not going to do all those mods, you can't go wrong with this because you're not spending all that money. You can ride it the way it is. I think the gearing's good, suspension's good, and you don't need to cut the head. You don't need to do all that stuff because it's already there. You don't have to change the carburetor because it already has fuel injection. You don't have to do any of that. So the answer to the thing is, why do I like this bike better? First of all, it's a little easier to ride, and instantly, I rode both these bikes first, had a bunch of time on them, and I was like, these things are awesome. And I thought they were great. And then Spencer's like, okay, now you need to hop on this one. And he didn't tell me. I thought he was leaning towards, hey, these are better. But I hop on this, and it was just, I was able to go way faster instantly. And it's not quite as quirky. That's the problem with this bike is we would get in different spots in tight little trails with first gear and second gear at little uphills. And this bike was just like more of a conventional power that you're used to on a two-stroke, where these bikes are just a little bit weird, where they would, once it kicks that power valve in and whatever it's doing in the mapping, then it wants to just kind of loop out at you, on the way up. So a little bit different type of power. Again, when we did add the silencer, the spark arrestor silencer to the XC, we had the FMF, it did seem to make it a little easier to ride. But, so to answer your question, which one do I like better is this. So if you have a 17, 18, or 19, they're close enough. Do you need to go buy a TPI bike? And I say, no, you don't need to. If it's time to upgrade, or if you're new to the market and you want the new bike, you're not going to go wrong with a TPI bike. But if you have a good 17, 18, or 19 and you like it, I would say stick with it. Give these things another year or 2, 3 till they kind of work it out and get it better. It's going to get better every year. And I'm sure there's going to be upgrades to these, updates to the mapping from your dealers. I'm sure they'll eventually have better, different mapping as well. But hopefully that answers the questions about which one is better. I think these are easy to ride. Even if this bike was completely stock versus one of these stock, even with the Mikuni, I still think we'd prefer this just because I think it's easier to ride faster and be in more control. So hopefully that answers that question. So carburetor, still pretty good if you have the good one on there. And, good point, still has a Kickstarter here as a backup, which we usually use when we haven't rode the bikes in a month or two. We usually go kickstart it right away so that we don't drain the battery kickstart it, and then we don't need it the rest of the time. And we don't have cold winters where we're at here, so we don't have to worry about getting ruined all winter because we're riding it all winter. So that's a really cool look at these bikes. Again, carburetors aren't too bad. Hopefully we see you out in the track or trail soon.